There are things we touch in passing and call progress: engines, glass, steel. And then there are the other things, the objects and inventions that arrived long before we had names for them. They sit in museums in dusty drawers on the margins of history, and every so often one of them looks back and asks a question we can't answer. Tonight we're opening those drawers. We're pulling out 10 inventions that should not exist by our timeline. 10 machines and artifacts that make modern engineers frown and historians whisper. If you're new here, welcome to CurioBox. Hit subscribe and tap the bell. You'll want to be here for every twist. Listen closely, this isn't a list to skim. Each of these discoveries forces us to choose between two uncomfortable ideas. Either our textbooks are wrong, or we are looking at the leftovers of knowledge older and stranger than we admit. Some of these objects are clever, some are dangerous, some are beautifully useless. All of them are a mirror held to the gap between what we can build today and what someone, somewhere built long ago. I won't promise answers. I'll promise evidence, detail, and the quiet logic that makes the impossible begin to smell like a clue. Along the way, I'll slip in moments you don't expect, hypotheses that will feel plausible until the next fact knocks them down. And you'll want to stay until the end, because the final item reframes everything that came before. That's not a tease, it's the way secrets stack. If this video hits you the way it hits me, pause halfway through and comment which item made you doubt history. I read every theory. And when we reach the middle, I'll ask you to choose the one you want me to research deeper for a follow-up deep dive. Before we descend into tonight's mystery, I want to take a moment to thank you. CurioBox has crossed 500 subscribers, and every one of you is a quiet heartbeat in this growing room of shadows. Your curiosity, your comments, your presence, it keeps the lantern burning in these strange corridors we explore together. So thank you for being here. And if you're new, you're welcome to step inside. Just don't forget to subscribe, because the deeper we go, the stranger it gets. The fragile part of our story begins now. The story begins with a chest of acacia wood, wrapped in gold so pure it seemed to drink firelight. And at its center, a riddle that modern science still refuses to solve. For most people, the Ark of the Covenant is a symbol, a relic of faith, myth, cinema. But for a small circle of researchers, electrical engineers, and fringe historians, it is something else entirely. They believe it was the world's first high-voltage capacitor, capable of producing a discharge so powerful it could kill on contact. And when you examine the descriptions, carefully, quietly, the way you examine something that might still be alive, you start to understand why. The Ark was built with 2 layers of gold, one inside, one outside, separated by an insulating layer of wood. That exact structure exists today, inside every high-capacity Leyden jar. 2 conductive plates, 1 dielectric barrier, a system that traps charge until it finds release. And the strange reports? People collapsing near it, voices thundering from its lid, a brightness described as consuming. A power so dangerous only specific priests could approach it. That sounds less like metaphor and more like electricity. But the deeper mystery is why. Who would build such a thing? And for what purpose? Some theorists claim ancient cultures rediscovered natural piezoelectric effects, quartz under pressure, or energy from storms accumulated inside gold plating. Others suggest the Ark was paired with something modern science still hasn't fully understood: desert atmospheric electricity, which can charge objects with terrifying intensity. Whatever the truth is, the Ark appears repeatedly as a device that had to be handled, maintained, even protected, sometimes violently. It was not a static relic. It was active, and then it vanished. The final recorded location is Ethiopia's Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion, where a single guardian claims to protect it until death. No scientist has ever examined it. No photograph has been released. But strange reports trickle out from visitors, stories of heat, of vibration, of a presence that feels humming. Even the monks refuse to look upon it for long. If this truly was an ancient electrical device, it suggests something far stranger: that ancient civilizations were not simply spiritual. They may have experimented with technologies we are only beginning to rediscover. And there's a darker thought, one that lingers like smoke. If the Ark was engineered, what else did they build? What knowledge died with the cultures that protected it? And if an object thousands of years old could store electricity potent enough to kill, what were they preparing for? Some historians whisper that the Ark was never meant to be a weapon, but a key, a power source for something larger, something lost. Before we continue, if you're still here, still leaning forward in the dark with me, Tap the like button so this story can reach others who wander the strange edges of history. It helps more than you know. The Ark's design aligns with no other artifact of its time. No parallel, no predecessor. Its appearance is abrupt, like knowledge suddenly descending rather than evolving. Which leads to the final unsettling question: where did the idea come from? Cultures usually develop technology slowly, layer by layer. But the Ark appears fully formed, complex, dangerous, and engineered with principles we thought were beyond its era. Unless the people who built it weren't discovering something new, but replicating something ancient. And if the Ark was a copy, what did the original look like? And who or what showed them how to build it? The Lost Ark Battery is more than a relic. It's a fracture line in human history. A reminder that our past might be far stranger and far more advanced than the textbooks allow. We descend into another puzzle, an ancient metal so strong and so impossible that even modern forges struggle to reproduce it. Damascus steel, a blade that remembers secrets. There are materials in history that feel less forged and more summoned. Damascus steel is one of them, an alloy spoken of in the same breath as curses, ghost stories, and battlefields where the air itself seemed to slice. To read the old chronicles is to feel a chill settle in the ribs, blades that cut through iron like softened fruit, swords that never dulled, patterns on metal that looked alive. Waves whirls, something like the fingerprint of a sleeping titan. But behind those swirling lines lies a puzzle that modern metallurgy still studies, with the quiet dread usually reserved for unmarked graves. Damascus steel appeared more than 1,000 years ago, reaching its legendary height between the 10th and 17th centuries. Crafted from crucible steel, woots, sourced from India and Sri Lanka, it became the crown jewel of Middle Eastern blacksmiths. These weapons were fabled not only for their strength but for a contradictory grace, incredibly hard yet impossible to shatter, sharp enough to cleave a falling feather, resilient enough to survive battles that left shields warped and armor screaming. And then, it vanished. Somewhere around the 18th century, the recipe, the ritual, the rhythm, the entire craft blinked out like a lantern smothered by unseen fingers. All that remained were the swords themselves, mute as relics at a crime scene. Modern science approached the mystery with its usual confidence: microscopes, spectrometers, laser scanning, nanostructural imaging. And still the answers retreated into the dark. Because Damascus steel, true Damascus, contains something modern metallurgists did not expect: carbon nanotubes and nanowires woven into the metal. Structures no medieval smith should have been able to form, yet there they are, whisper-thin and arranged with eerie precision. Today, nanotubes require controlled laboratory conditions, hyper-specific temperatures, and gas phase reactions. Yet those same structures appear in blades hammered under desert suns by craftsmen who left no explanation. And the more we examine, the stranger the story grows. The patterns on Damascus steel are not decorative flourishes carved by hand. They are the metal itself, the result of microstructures aligning in a way that almost seems intentional. Like the steel remembers the motion of the hammer as a kind of language, a code. Each wave and ripple is the aftermath of cycles of heating, folding, and quenching carried out with a precision that should have been beyond the tools of the time. Some theories claim the smiths were using plant oils or unknown chemical mixtures during quenching, compounds that might have triggered nanostructure formation. Others whisper about contaminated ore from a now-lost mine containing rare trace elements. A few researchers, more superstitious than they would admit, talk about blacksmith intuition, a ritual passed down orally until one broken link collapsed the entire lineage. But there's a darker possibility lurking in the data, that even the smiths never fully understood what they were creating. Consider this: if the raw Wootz ingots came from a unique geological anomaly, one that produced a near-perfect blend of vanadium, chromium, and carbon, then the metal itself was the secret, not the method. Once the deposits were exhausted, the craft didn't disappear. It starved. No amount of skill could compensate for missing ingredients locked deep beneath forgotten earth. But still, that doesn't explain the nanotubes or the superplasticity, or blades so sharp the edges measure in microns. Some researchers propose that the medieval forging environment created micro-conditions that are impossible to replicate today. Something in the charcoal, in the wind, in the mineral content of the water. A fusion of place, time, and skill that cannot be resurrected without resurrecting the lost world that made it. And then there are the legends. Swordsmiths speaking to the metal like it was alive. Blades said to choose their owner. Weapons that rang like bells when danger approached. Pieces so prized that kings fought kingdoms just to own one. Most historians dismiss these tales as poetic embellishments, yet the stark truth remains. Modern science cannot recreate a true Damascus blade. Not the appearance, not the internal structure, not the eerie harmony between strength and flexibility. The technique is lost, the secret ingredients are gone, the metal sleeps. And every surviving blade, those quiet, patterned relics sealed behind museum glass, feels less like a weapon and more like a warning. That history sometimes knows how to do what the present cannot. Standing before one is like listening to an old lullaby sung in a language no living person remembers. The meaning has slipped away, but the melody still haunts the room. Damascus steel isn't just a mystery of metallurgy, it's a ghost forged in fire. In the quiet halls of European museums, behind thick glass and dim lighting, lie swords that feel less like artifacts and more like warnings. Their blades are lean, dark, and almost predatory, etched with a single unsettling word. Ulfberht, a name, a brand. A signature etched by hands that should not, by all logic, have been capable of creating what these blades truly are. The Ulfberht Swords appeared during the Viking Age, an era of longships slicing across cold seas and warriors who treated battle like a grim form of poetry. But these swords stood apart. They were sharper, stronger, and purer than anything Europe would be capable of forging for the next 700 years. That is the part that unsettles metallurgists. These swords were forged from crucible steel, a metal requiring temperatures so high, so precisely controlled, and so incredibly rare in medieval Europe that the technology should not have existed there at all. Europe would not learn to make metal of this purity until the Industrial Revolution. And yet, the Vikings held it in their hands. The blades were nearly flawless, no bubbles, no slag, no weakness. A purity of carbon content that modern blacksmiths still struggle to achieve without industrial machinery. So the question echoes like a whisper in a tune. Where did the Vikings get the knowledge? Some theorists suggest the blades were imported from lost Persian crucible steel traditions. Others claim the technique was a gift from traders who carried secrets across the Silk Road. But even these ideas feel thin, incomplete, like trying to patch a hole in the world with a single thread. A more unsettling possibility lingers in the archives, that a small, isolated group of master smiths in Northern Europe discovered a metallurgical formula centuries ahead of its time, and then vanished, taking the process with them into the grave. The Ulfberht swords almost glow when placed under modern scanning equipment. Their structure is too perfect, too uniform, like metal poured from the blueprint of a machine that did not yet exist. They bend without breaking. They cut through lower-grade iron as though slicing through tender fruit. Some historians say a warrior holding an Ulfberht sword would have felt nearly invincible, the way a soldier today might feel with cutting-edge technology strapped to their back. It was a weapon out of its century, a blade that seemed carved from the future. But not all Ulfberht swords are the same. Mixed among the genuine ones are counterfeits, less pure, more brittle, rushed by inferior blacksmiths who attempted to imitate the impossible. The difference between them is chilling. One could deliver death with the smoothness of silk. The other could shatter in its wielder's hand. Imagine the terror of discovering your blade was a lie, in the middle of a battlefield. But the real mystery hides deeper, beneath the soil of Scandinavia and the shifting sands of Europe. The Ulfberht signature spans centuries, yet no one knows who Ulfberht was. Maybe it wasn't a single smith. Maybe it was a family, a secret order, a guild hidden behind runes and rituals. Or maybe the name didn't represent the maker. It represented the method, a code word for a recipe guarded like a holy relic. Some scholars imagine the Ulfberht's forging in silence, their furnaces hidden deep within forests glowing like forbidden stars, their process honed through generations, each craftsman adding a fragment of wisdom until the metal became something nearly supernatural. Others wonder if the knowledge wasn't discovered, but found. A ruinous shard, an artifact from a vanished civilization that the Smiths tried to reverse engineer, a technological echo of a world swallowed by time. And then abruptly, the Ulfberht swords disappear from history, just as abruptly as they had appeared. No more perfect blades, no more crucible steel. The secret, whatever it was, simply sank back into the earth, as if someone extinguished the last furnace and buried the knowledge under ash and silence. Today, modern metallurgists can replicate some aspects, but not the original purity. Not without machines the Vikings should not have possessed. The true Ulfberht blades remain stubborn, defiant, whispering from behind museum glass like relics smuggled out of a different timeline. A reminder that the past was not always primitive, and that civilizations sometimes rise only to forget their own brilliance. The Ulfberht Swords stand as a quiet accusation, a metallic ghost pointing to a missing chapter in human history, one forged in impossible heat, perfected in secret, and lost before the world even knew it needed to ask the right questions. Deep inside the oldest stories, older than parchment, older than empire, there is a whisper about a creature so impossible that it stumbles across the border between myth and forbidden engineering. A thing not made of gears or metal or chisel, but alive. A thing that cuts stone as easily as breath moves through lungs. They called it the shamir, a worm or a stone, or a shard of something that did not belong to the age that tried to describe it. The legends tremble and contradict themselves, but one detail repeats again and again. The shamir could slice through the hardest rock without heat, pressure, or sound. Not crack, not chip, cut cleanly, perfectly, with edges that modern masons still struggle to replicate. The story first surfaces in the days of King Solomon, a king known not just for wisdom, but for architecture so advanced that historians still puzzle over its execution. The first temple in Jerusalem, built without iron tools, without the hammering and screaming of metal on stone. Scripture insists the stones were shaped far away in utter silence and brought together like puzzle pieces destined to fit. The explanation? Solomon possessed the shamir. Descriptions vary. Some depict it as a living worm the size of a grain of barley, glowing faintly like a coal that refused to cool. Others say it was not alive at all, more like a crystalline fragment that emitted a force capable of altering molecular structure. Some claimed it radiated energy strong enough to fracture mountains without a single spark. Whatever it was, its power was feared. They stored it in lead containers because even then, people understood instinctively that lead swallows harmful radiance. They wrapped it in wool. They hid it in caves. They treated it the way one handles something that shouldn't exist. Ancient texts say the shamir cut stones for holy spaces, including the breastplate of the high priest, a grid of gemstones carved without conventional tools. Rubies, emeralds, onyx, materials that today require diamond-tipped machinery. Yet somehow this worm, this artifact, this anomaly, carved them like soft fruit. Most scholars dismiss it as fable, a metaphor, a story meant to elevate temple construction into the realm of divine intervention. And yet, the world is littered with stones that challenge our modern smugness. Megaslabs in Baalbek weighing hundreds of tons cut with precision that mocks our cranes. Polygonal walls in Peru whose stones interlock with surgical perfection. Obelisks that rise without seams or joints. Granite sarcophagi so exact their corners feel laser carved. Ancient cultures, separated by continents, languages, and millennia, seem to share a secret. Somebody somewhere had a way to soften or slice stone without brute force. Which brings us back to the shamir. What if it wasn't a worm at all? What if worm was a word ancient scribes used for something they couldn't fully comprehend? Something serpentine, radiant, reactive. A misunderstood device or substance that behaved like an organism because it moved or changed under specific conditions. Something that hummed, something that carved, something dangerous. In modern times, theories bloom like strange flowers. Radioactive minerals, tiny, potent, capable of breaking molecular bonds in stone. A lost ancient chemical compound, corrosive, controlled, now forgotten. A biological organism, extremophile bacteria that digest rock found in deep caves. A nanotech relic, a wild, improbable idea. Unless the past was not as primitive as we assume, there's even a fringe suggestion that the shamir might have been a fragment of meteoritic material, an alien mineral with properties not found on Earth. Something that reacted to stone in ways our chemistry does not yet mimic. But the strangest part of the story isn't the shamir itself. It's how suddenly it disappears. One generation after the temple was built, it's gone. Vanished from records, no descriptions of its destruction. No relics, no trace. Legends say its power burned out. Others claim it was buried beneath the ruins of the temple. Some whisper it was taken, spirited away by a group who feared or coveted its capabilities. A device that cut stone without a sound, disappearing just as mysteriously as it arrived. And here's the uncomfortable shiver. Civilizations often lose knowledge, but rarely do they erase it this completely. It feels less like forgetting and more like hiding. Today, all that remains is a name, Shamir, and a trail of architectural impossibilities scattered across the planet. Doorways, pillars, temples carved with techniques we still can't replicate perfectly. Maybe the ancients knew something we don't. Maybe they held a key to manipulating matter itself. Maybe the Shamir was real, and we are simply too late to witness it. There is an object, small enough to fit in a closed palm, light enough to mistake for scrap, that has quietly unsettled everyone who has looked at it with a trained eye. It has no official name, no museum spotlight, no mainstream documentary. Instead, it drifts through the undercurrent of anomalous archaeology, like a secret everyone senses but no one wants to claim. People call it the 2,000-year-old computer chip. It began, as mysteries often do, with an accident. In the 1990s, workers excavating an ancient site in Russia unearthed a cluster of small artifacts, broken pottery, rusted tools, and something that did not belong. Something rectangular, patterned, embedded with a network of channels so precise that it looked manufactured. Not carved, not weathered, fabricated. At first glance, it resembles a microchip. Etched lines, grid patterns, small cavities that mirror the architecture of circuitry. Under magnification, the object becomes even stranger. The tracks are uniform. The angles are consistent. Some of the channels run parallel with a precision that would require machinery, not hammer and chisel. Geologists first insisted it was natural. Then they examined the symmetry, the regularity, the repeating geometric signatures. Nature does many things, but it does not lay out straight channels spaced to the micron. When the artifact was analyzed, its estimated age shocked even the skeptics, roughly 2,000 to 3,000 years old, depending on the surrounding strata. That is the age of early iron smelting, the age of wooden plows and oil lamps, the age of empires that built monuments by brute force, not circuitry. Yet here sat something that looked like it belonged on a motherboard. Of course, the scientific community recoiled. The implications were too large, too disruptive. So the object was quietly shelved, catalogued, disputed, dismissed. Some called it a hoax. Others claimed it was an industrial artifact that somehow found its way into older layers of Earth. But then more appeared, not identical, not connected, but eerily similar. Artifacts uncovered in Romania, Ukraine, and even parts of China, all showing the same strange features. Parallel microchannels, layered structures, precise cross-sections that seem engineered. The pattern was unmistakable. These objects were turning up in places where they should not exist, in layers far older than human metallurgy could manage. Still, the counter-arguments persisted. It's crystallization. It's insect burrow patterns. It's an oddly shaped rock. But crystals do not grow in perfect right angles. Insects do not carve repeating geometric grids. Rocks do not form designs that resemble circuit boards. Some researchers propose that the objects might be remnants of ancient electrical experiments. Lost knowledge once known, then forgotten across the collapse of civilizations. After all, humanity has risen and fallen many times. What if a moment of brilliance flared briefly, only to be swallowed by war, famine, or natural disaster? Others whispered a more unnerving theory, ancient reverse engineering. What if someone, thousands of years ago, found something advanced, crashed, buried, abandoned? What if they tried to copy it, imitate it, recreate what they did not fully understand? A simple mimicry of an incomprehensible device. It would explain the roughness, the imperfection, the incomplete functionality, like a craftsman carving a clock after seeing only its gears. Then there is the quietest theory of all, the one few dare to say aloud. What if these artifacts aren't failed attempts? What if they worked? Some believe the objects were components in ancient devices. Early sensors, resonators, communication tools powered not by electricity but by Earth's magnetic field, or by pressure, or by phenomena we no longer study. A lost technology, not inferior, just different. A frightening possibility emerges. We assume technological progress is linear. But what if it loops, rises, collapses, and rises again? Every empire leaves ruins. Every catastrophe erases libraries. Every dark age swallows inventions. What survives? Stone, ceramic, metal fragments, and maybe the occasional piece of something we were never meant to understand. Today, the 2,000-year-old chip sits in private collections and obscure research files. Its existence acknowledged, but its meaning avoided. Too much weight, too many implications. It lingers like a splinter in the story of human history. hinting at chapters we lost or chapters we never wrote. A fragment of a machine without a machine, a pattern without a purpose, a whisper from a past that should not have been capable of whispering. The kind of thing that keeps history awake at night. The story of the Olmecs begins long before familiar civilizations learned to draw lines on maps or carve the world into directions. Their culture rises like a whisper from 1500 BCE, older than the Maya, older than the Aztecs, older than the empires we often credit with early genius. And yet, in the middle of their sculpted heads and abandoned temples, the Olmecs may have quietly invented something that should have been impossible for their age. A compass, not a symbolic tool, not a ritual trinket, a real, functional, magnetized device, one that reveals north not by accident but by knowledge. This is where our story leans into the dim, because for the Olmecs to have made a compass, they needed to understand something no other known culture discovered until 2,000 years later: the invisible pull of the Earth itself. The first clue was discovered by archaeologists in the 1960s while studying polished hematite and magnetite bars. Small, smooth, deliberately shaped. They weren't weapons, they weren't jewelry. What they seemed to be, strangely, were pointers, iron ore tools that, when suspended, aligned themselves along the Earth's magnetic field. At first, researchers assumed coincidence. Ancient people often shaped stones for ritual. But these bars didn't behave like ritual objects, they behaved like scientific ones. Their edges were too precise, their surfaces too carefully ground, polished to a mirror-like sheen. Someone worked these stones deliberately, meticulously, as if trying to unlock a force they knew they couldn't see. When one of the artifacts was floated on a piece of wood and water, much like ancient Chinese compasses, it pointed consistently toward magnetic north. No hesitation, no drifting, as if it remembered the Earth's heartbeat. But the real shock came from context. The Olmecs weren't explorers navigating oceans. They weren't astronomers mapping constellations into directional charts. So why create a magnetic pointer? What problem were they solving? What force were they chasing? One theory whispers that the Olmecs used magnetism to orient their temples and colossal heads. Many of their structures are aligned to mysterious directions, not just to solstices or stars, but to magnetic patterns that existed at that time. This means they weren't just observing light, they were observing invisible physics. Another theory is stranger. Some archaeologists believe it wasn't a compass at all, but a magnetic divination tool, a device used to feel the will of the Earth. The Olmecs were known for rituals connecting the physical world to spiritual forces. What if magnetism wasn't a discovery but a revelation, something they believed came from the gods beneath the soil? And yet, the more we study the artifact, the more it behaves like a scientific instrument, a tool with purpose, a device intentionally magnetized, heat-treated, rubbed against lodestone, and carved into a shape optimized for pivoting. But here's where the mystery deepens. There is no record, no writing, no oral tradition describing the Olmecs experimenting with magnetism. No explanation for how they could have stumbled into such advanced understanding of natural forces, and yet the object exists, quiet, confident, unapologetically out of time. Think of it. The earliest known magnetic instrument in world history wasn't Chinese, wasn't Greek, wasn't Roman. It belonged to a civilization that left almost nothing behind except stone heads and questions. The Olmec compass shouldn't exist, not with the science it requires, not in the era it came from, not with the silence that surrounds it, and the final twist. Earth's magnetic field shifts over centuries. Magnetic north moves. But tests show the Olmec pointer aligns with where north was around the time it was made. This is precision, not accident. This is knowledge, not coincidence. Which leaves us with a lingering thought that curls like fog around the edges of archaeology. If the Olmecs mastered magnetism, what else did they know that we haven't found yet? What technologies dissolved into the rainforest long before we learned the language of physics? What hand-shaped forces that would remain unexplained for millennia? Some discoveries sit proudly in museums. Others hide in glass cases pretending to be simple rocks. But a few, like the Olmec compass, exist quietly, almost shyly, as if they were never meant to be rediscovered at all. A whisper of science from the shadows of history. A reminder that the past knew far more than we're comfortable admitting. There are places on Earth that feel less like architecture and more like a message carved not onto the world but out of it, as though some unseen hand reached into the bedrock and pulled out a secret. And in western India, beneath the sun-bleached cliffs of Ellora, that secret waits, the Kailasa temple, a structure that has somehow managed to defy gravity, time, and logic in the same quiet breath. A monolith so vast that even the mountain seems startled by its own absence, its heart scooped clean to reveal something impossibly precise beneath. Imagine standing before a temple the size of a modern apartment complex, except every corridor, every pillar, every sculpture, every shrine was carved downward from the top of a single volcanic mountain, not built stone by stone, not assembled over generations, but excavated in one colossal, uninterrupted act of subtraction. A cathedral exhaled from the earth's spine. No blueprints survive, no carvings that explain the process, no notes from the architects or the workers who undertook this task. But whoever did it began with a mountain and simply removed everything that was not temple. And to carve something like Kailasa, you would need to remove roughly 400,000 tons of rock, not in blocks, not in workable chunks, but in waste, useless rubble that needed to be carried away long before the main structure could take shape. Most historians say this process took centuries, yet Indian legends whisper something stranger, something far more unsettling, that the entire temple was carved in 18 years. 18, a single generation. Barely enough time for a child to become an adult. Not enough time for the human hand to sculpt a mountain with iron chisels, hammers, and the patience of ants. And still, the temple is here. Walk deeper and the space begins to feel elastic, too large for its own stone skin. Gigantic statues of gods stand in perfect balance, their expressions frozen mid-myth. Pillars rise with mathematical precision. Columns align with uncanny symmetry. Carvings curl like fossilized smoke along the walls, telling stories that seem older than the language used to describe them. This wasn't guesswork. This wasn't random. This was geometry married to devotion, sharpened into an engineering miracle. But the mystery isn't just how it was built. It's why so many details feel engineered rather than merely artistic. Acoustic pockets amplify chants. Drainage systems are hidden inside the stone like veins. Sunlight lands exactly where it needs to during specific seasons. Support columns are arranged with load-bearing intelligence modern architects still admire. And then there's the question no one can answer. Who designed this? Temples in India normally reference kings, dynasties, patrons, people eager to stamp their names onto the bones of history. But Kailasa is almost anonymous. A few inscriptions hint at rulers, but none take credit for the engineering design. None describe the planning, the layout, the logistics, the thousands of calculations needed to carve from the top down without a single structural collapse. It's as if the work was done by a group that didn't need credit, or didn't expect it to be understood, or didn't expect anyone to question it. The more archaeologists study the site, the stranger it becomes. Chisel marks show different directions of carving, horizontal, vertical, spiral, often overlapping in ways that suggest numerous teams working simultaneously with uncanny coordination, as though someone above them held a blueprint of the entire mountain in mind, directing them like pieces on a board. Some researchers propose ancient surveying tools far ahead of their time. Some suggest lost engineering knowledge, techniques erased by conquest or simply forgotten. And a few lean into the speculation, the riddle inside the riddle, that Kailasa may be a surviving example of an ancient technological peak humanity no longer remembers reaching. The temple stands today without a single major crack, no structural failures, no signs of recarving or later reinforcement. Just a perfect negative sculpture, carved into existence with a precision that borders on surgical. Even the air feels different inside, like the interior of a giant stone instrument built for an orchestra no one remembers. We may never know the truth. Whether Kailasa was the product of a lost workforce with impossible skill, a forgotten engineering system, or something more enigmatic, more deliberate, more advanced. The mountain is silent on the matter, and the artisans who carved it have long dissolved into history's dust. But the temple remains, an ancient question cut from stone itself. A monolith that asks without voice, who taught humans to carve a miracle? Long before the pyramids raised their sharp silhouettes into the Egyptian sky, before the Nile crowned its first kingdom, there was a desert, endless, silent, a place where the wind spoke more often than humans did. And in the heart of that desert, far from the maps, far from the noise, ancient hands arranged stones in patterns no one fully understands. Nabta Playa, a dried lakebed that looks at first glance like nothing more than the earth remembering water. But beneath that quiet surface lies one of the oldest and strangest structures ever found. A megalithic arrangement older than Stonehenge, older than most known civilizations, and possibly the first astronomical observatory humanity ever built. Not a village, not a temple, not a burial site, a calendar, but not a simple one, not a count the seasons and pray for rain sort of calendar. This one is aligned to the heavens with a precision that feels deliberate in ways that scrape against our understanding of ancient technology. Imagine stepping into a stone circle in a desert where nothing grows. Small pillars stand upright, arranged with geometric discipline, each one pointing somehow toward an astronomical truth. The stars move overhead like silent witnesses, and the stones below nod in agreement, as if both were reading from the same old script. Archaeologists believe these stones marked the summer solstice, but deeper studies suggest something stranger. Patterns referencing star systems, including Orion and Sirius. Alignments too precise to be accidental, too purposeful to be random. And this is where the desert begins to whisper, because the people who built Nabta Playa were cattle herders, nomadic without cities, without monuments, without writing systems, without the known tools or mathematical frameworks usually required to execute celestial architecture. Yet here they were, 6,000 to 7,000 years ago, carving the sky into stone. The stones themselves were dragged from quarries miles away, some weighing tons, hauled across sand without wheels, without beasts of burden, without the infrastructure we associate with megalithic cultures. The arrangement required not just physical labor, but an understanding of celestial cycles spanning centuries. This wasn't the work of a single generation. This was knowledge passed hand to hand like fire in the night. And here's the part where the mystery deepens, becoming almost unsettling. The site contains buried stones arranged in geometric patterns that match star positions, not from the time of its construction, but from thousands of years earlier. As though the builders were referencing an astronomical memory so ancient, even they might not have understood its origin. Some researchers argue this indicates math more advanced than expected. Others theorize the people of Nabta inherited a star map from an even older culture, one now lost to time and desert wind. And then there's the uncanny symmetry. One stone line seems to mark the rising of Sirius, the star that later became the backbone of the Egyptian calendar. Another aligns with Orion's belt, which later guided the layout of the Giza pyramids. Nabta Playa predates both by millennia. It's as if this quiet stone circle in the middle of nowhere was the prototype, as if Egyptian civilization learned its first cosmic steps from a place erased by sand. But the question remains, how? How did a nomadic group, without established cities, predict the solstice with this accuracy? How did they track the movements of stars with such discipline? How did they encode geometric patterns into buried stone slabs without leaving behind writing or diagrams? And perhaps the most haunting question, why? Why invest such energy into a desert shrine that seems to serve no political or religious purpose? Why create a sky machine unless you were measuring something the rest of the world wasn't ready to see? Some say Nabta Playa was a ceremonial site for rainfall rituals. Some say it was a cattle cult with a cosmic obsession. Some say it represents humanity's earliest attempt to synchronize life with the heavens. And others whisper that this was a remnant of a forgotten epoch, one where ancient peoples understood the sky with a depth modern astronomers still respect. Today, the stones remain half buried, half forgotten, surrounded by a desert that has reclaimed its quiet dominance. But at night, under the same stars the builders once tracked, the site begins to feel alive again. The alignment sharpened, the purpose breathes. The silence feels intentional. It becomes clear that Nabta Playa wasn't just a calendar. It was a conversation across time, a coded message etched in stone and starlight, one that asks, how old is human knowledge really? And what memories did we lose before history learned how to write? There are places in this world where the past does not sleep. It waits, half buried, patient, watching us forget what we were. On a quiet hill in West Dunbartonshire, Scotland, under a thin layer of soil and centuries of silence, lies one of those places, the Cochno stone. A single slab of rock nearly 13 meters long, carved with spirals, cups, rings, lines, and symbols that feel less like art and more like instructions. Its markings ripple across the stone like constellations hammered into the earth, as though the sky itself once came down to leave a message no one alive today can read. Archaeologists uncovered it fully in 1887, What they found looked wrong, too intricate, too deliberate, too cosmically aware for a prehistoric people supposedly armed with nothing but simple tools and superstition. The symbols didn't match the local folklore. They didn't resemble territorial markers or hunting maps. Instead, they aligned with something unsettling: celestial patterns, constellations, star paths, observational geometry from a civilization we refuse to acknowledge ever existed. And yet the creators of the Cochno stone lived 5,000 years ago. Even now, researchers run their fingertips across the carved channels and feel as if they're touching someone else's intelligence. Someone who watched the sky with an understanding we can't reconstruct. The grooves are too precise for crude chiseling. Some appear polished. Others create near-perfect geometric relationships that would require advanced math. But here is the part that disturbs scholars the most. The carvings on the Cochno stone match patterns found across Europe and across oceans. Cup and ring marks appear in Spain, Italy, India, and even South America. Not identical, not copied, but related, like dialects of a forgotten language once spoken across the world. A language modern science cannot read, a language that might not have been meant for human eyes alone. Some archaeologists whisper theories they would never publish, that the Cochno stone was a map, not of the land, but of the heavens, a chart meant for navigating something far beyond the hill where it sleeps. Others think it was a ritual device, a place where ancient astronomers tracked solstices and equinoxes. But even those theories feel small, almost shy compared to the scale of the stone's design. Its spirals stretch like galaxies. Its rings overlap with the logic of orbital motion. One researcher described it as a prehistoric observatory that thinks like modern astrophysics. But that explanation still doesn't answer the largest question of all. How did a 5,000-year-old culture know the sky with this precision? There are no surviving texts, no tools that match the complexity of the symbols, no bones or artifacts that suggest a priestly astronomical class. It's as though the artist carved this knowledge into stone and then vanished. In 1965, authorities made a decision that only deepened the mystery. The stone was reburied, covered deliberately with soil, hidden from the sun it once mapped. The reason given? To protect it from vandalism. But locals speak of other reasons, quiet ones, strange gatherings at night. People who stood silently around the stone without speaking. The feeling that the air hummed when the moon struck the carvings at the right angle. Some said the stone should never have been uncovered. Others said it wasn't meant to be walked upon by the living. When archaeologists briefly re-excavated the stone in 2016 for a detailed digital scan, something strange happened. Visitors reported dizziness, a sense of being observed, and a pulling feeling toward certain markings, as if the grooves were designed to guide the human eye in spiraling paths that never end. One researcher refused to work at night. Another described the carvings as intelligent. A third compared the stone to a machine, one that still works even if we've forgotten what it was built to do. Some believe the Cochno stone is the oldest star map on Earth. Others believe it is a warning, a record of an event so old and so enormous that its meaning has decayed into symbols. But the truth remains buried, literally, because after scanning it, the archaeologists covered it again, sealed it back in the dark, returned it to the earth like a secret too heavy for daylight. Now it sleeps beneath a thin layer of soil, waiting for the next time humanity forgets its fear and goes digging. A cosmic riddle carved in stone, a map that points somewhere we're not ready to go, and a whisper from a people who watch the stars, perhaps because something once came down from them. Some inventions arrive like intruders from the future, objects that make their era feel suddenly too small, too quiet, too unprepared. Vitrum flexile, the Roman flexible glass, is one of those unsettling anomalies, whispered in fragments by ancient historians and dismissed by modern scholars who find the implications uncomfortable. Glass, by its nature, is fragile. It cracks, it shatters. It behaves like a brittle ghost frozen in material form. But according to Roman accounts, there was once a glass that bent without breaking, a material that moved like metal but shone like crystal, a creation so impossible that even now, 2,000 years later, it feels like a rumor smuggled across time. The story begins during the reign of Emperor Tiberius, an era already perfumed with paranoia. As the tale goes, a lone craftsman was escorted into the imperial palace carrying a vessel. Not gold, not silver, but glass, clear, luminous, almost trembling in the torchlight. Before the emperor could dismiss him, the craftsman performed the impossible. he dropped the vessel. It struck the marble floor, not with the sharp scream of shattering, but with a dull metallic thud. Instead of splintering, the glass dented, and with a small tool, the craftsman hammered the dent out. The court chroniclers described Tiberius as frozen, somewhere between awe and fear, as if he had just witnessed a law of nature quietly rearrange itself. For a moment, the hall must have felt like a sealed tomb where the impossible had just taken its first breath. Then the fear arrived. Because a material like that, a glass tougher than bronze, cheaper than metal, clearer than crystal, could collapse entire industries. It would dethrone goldsmiths, silence metalworkers, drain wealth from noble houses, and rewrite the hierarchy of value itself. Tiberius reacted the way many rulers do when confronted with a future they cannot control. He ordered the inventor executed. And the formula, the method, the miracle died with him. At least that's what the historians say. Modern science approaches the legend cautiously, the way one approaches a sealed door in a dark corridor, curious but wary. Some metallurgists suggest the material might have been a type of borosilicate glass, centuries ahead of its rediscovery. Others propose a treated composite, something halfway between glass and metal through a lost process of annealing or ion exchange. A handful of fringe theorists whisper about quasi-crystalline structures, impossible arrangements of atoms that defy conventional chemistry. Yet none of these explanations stand tall without trembling. Because every attempt to recreate the material has failed, the Romans did possess a deep knowledge of glassmaking, far more sophisticated than most modern people realize. They manipulated heat, silica, fluxes, and colors with a precision that borders on ritual. But flexibility? That is something else entirely. Flexibility in glass requires microscopic perfection, uniform atomic bonding, and an absence of stress points so complete it borders on fantasy. And then there is the other problem. No physical sample exists. Not a shard, not a fragment. Nothing. It's as if the invention left no fingerprint on the world except a story. Yet several ancient writers mention it: Petronius, Pliny, Dio Cassius. Different authors, different decades, same uncanny detail. A material that refused to break. Either a myth traveled flawlessly for generations, or the miracle was real enough to haunt Roman memory. There's an uncomfortable thought tucked between the lines. What if the inventor was not the first? What if he stumbled upon a technique already ancient, something whispered down from civilization's long dust? After all, the ancient world is littered with materials modern science cannot replicate. Greek fire, Mithridite, Macedonian tempering oils, vanished pigments that have outlived entire empires. Flexible glass fits neatly into that graveyard of impossible craftsmanship. Some researchers imagine a hidden workshop, furnace roaring, sand melting into liquid clarity, the inventor working alone. Perhaps the discovery wasn't intentional. Perhaps it was an accident. A strange impurity in the silica, an unusual cooling process, a rare mineral in the fuel. A perfect storm of chemistry that never repeated itself. Or maybe it did repeat itself and was silenced each time. An invention that threatens the balance of wealth rarely survives the hands of those who profit from the old order. Knowledge disappears faster than marble erodes. A formula can be erased with the death of one man, a single torch, a single order given behind palace doors. Today, flexible glass would revolutionize everything from architecture to aerospace. But the Romans may have held it, if only for a moment, as something fragile and forbidden, like a glimpse of a future they weren't allowed to keep. And now, you've walked through the corridors of forgotten empires, brushed the dust off inventions that should not exist, and stared into the fractures of history. Those places where the past refuses to obey the rules we wrote for it. These mysteries, they linger, like echoes trapped inside stone, like questions carved deeper than any archaeologist's tools can reach. Before we fade into the quiet, I want to say this: thank you. Somehow, this strange little corner of the internet has grown past 500 subscribers, and every single one of you has carried CurioBox further into the dark than I ever expected. You watch, you comment, you explore these shadows with me, and that means more than I can shape into words. If you're new here, welcome to CurioBox. Here we open the lid on the mysteries that don't fit anywhere else. So if you want to keep descending with us, like the video, drop your thoughts below and subscribe if you haven't already. Not for the algorithm, but so you never miss the next strange story waiting in the dark. Until then, stay curious, stay sharp, and keep your lantern close, because the world is far stranger than anyone admits.